Tonight, I want to talk about Charles Barkley and the statement that he made during the men's NCAA basketball tournament. How he talked about politicians designed to pin blacks and whites against each other, and they're making money off of it. And I just wanted to go ahead and touch a few things on what he said and why it is not warranted to give this situation a standing ovation. And I'm going to talk about these things. So basically, Charles Barkley made a statement and some of the comments that he made, and I'm going to talk about a few of these comments. He stated that white people and black people are great people. He said politicians designed to pin each other to not like one another. Then he goes on and says that money and power, and he also puts the divide, is here to divide and conquer. Then he says that we're too stupid because we keep following politicians. Doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. Then he goes on and says that we got the money, so why not pin the two races against each other because they do not live in our area? We can benefit off of it. We don't care. Then he just talks about how the politicians keep pushing white against black hate and rich against poor hate, where the poor hates the rich and the black hates the whites. So a lot of people gave Charles Barkley a standing ovation as if he said something remarkable. Once again, I applaud Charles Barkley for saying that. He is not a whistleblower. He is not exposing anything that myself, and other three-dimensional thinking black men have not already discussed on our platforms. We've talked about these things. But I have to go ahead and keep it real here. I have to. This is my job. Charles Barkley said something that was true. He did. But you have to understand that racism is big business. Feminists is big business. Global ideology is big business. You put feminist, globalist, and racial ideology together, it is funded by the white man's checkbook, including the government and the politicians. The Democratic Party raised over $200 million from the Black Lives Matter movement. That's money. All your LGBTQ pride marches and all that kind of stuff, that's funded by white folks. All your feminist movements and marches and Me Too's movements, those were funded by the white man's checkbook. It is big business. People like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Michael Eric Dyson, Roland Martin, Louis Farrakhan, and Cornel West, I call these guys race bait pimps. They get on these TV shows and these talk shows, and all they talk about is racism. That's how these guys make their money. They get on CNN, CNBC, Fox, or whatever platform that is on TV, including sports talk shows, and they talk about racism, pushing and promoting their book, pushing and promoting their ideology about racism. Without these platforms, these guys do not make their six-figure salaries. I'm just keeping it real here. It is big business to talk about racism. This is nothing new under the sun. And like I stated, Charles Barkley is not a whistleblower. He didn't expose no Illuminati type of situation. This is just pure facts. Racism is big business in this country. The civil rights movement of your 50s, 60s, and early 70s, before it died off, was funded by the Caucasian Jews. People like Robert F. Kennedy and Lyndon Baines Johnson always stated that as long as black folks voted Democrat, they will always be on top. Once again, it's big business. Slavery, same thing. You keep talking about slavery, that triggers the mind of black people to always hate white folks. You know, they push and promote movies that talk about these things. What was it? 12 Years a Slave, Mandingo, Django Unchained, Mississippi Burning. Countless and countless of Martin Luther King portrayed movies. Those things generate money and triggers the mindset of black people to hate on white folks. But when it comes to finding a solution, no one seems to have a solution to how to end racism. How can you end it? They don't want to end it. White folks don't want to end it. These race baiting pimps out here, hustlers, they don't want to end it because it's too much money having dysfunction in the mindset of black people when it comes to white folks. So when Charles Barkley makes the statement that he says, I hate to be that guy, but it's going to fall on deaf ears. Just because he made that statement doesn't mean anything is going to change. All we do is talk. That's it. That's all we do is talk about it. We get on these white folks platforms and try to guilt trip white people into racism. But then when you ask these, I'm just keeping it real, none of them ask for any solution. But a guy like me asks for a solution, you hear crickets. No one has a solution. And then they'll turn to me and say, why are you always starting shit? Because I'm that type of dude that wanted to get down to the nitty gritty of it. Are we going to sit here and finger point at white people every time we turn around? So yes, politician does make money off of it because of a lot of these emotional ass black folks want to help push and continue the narrative. It is big business. So all y'all conservative neighbors, white folks that a lot of these black folks knows who's giving Charles Barkley a standing ovation, but guess what? They always made money off of this. Ain't nothing's going to change because no one is looking for a solution. But the biggest issue, if I can find a solution between the two races when it comes to whites and blacks, is the economical wealth between the two. White people make up 60% of America and blacks make up about 16 to 18%. And if you look at things by calculation, black folks are like over 100 years of economic wealth behind. Because black folks depend on the government. They refuse to understand how money works. And they don't understand their culture. They don't believe in family. They don't believe in understanding about working together as men being the head of the household. And then it's the woman, then it's the child, in that order. That is the real issue. Once black folks learn how to work together, especially as the men being the head of the household, and understanding the money system, understanding how this fiat money in today's society and how it works, and being off of the government's help and be staying away from the government and not relying on the government, black folks will actually make strides in this society, especially this ever-changing society. Now, far as white people being good people, white people are actually just minding their own damn business, man. Every year, crime against black folks actually goes down percentage-wise every year. You know why? Because there is no benefit in white-on black crime. There's no benefit in it. Majority of white people get up and they go to their jobs and they try to provide for their families. Black people, they actually do the same thing too. But a lot of black folks get caught up in what the liberal media talks about and the social media and what they talk about. And people get caught up in that on both sides of the fences when it comes to whites and blacks. And black folks and a lot of liberal white folks actually try to depend on the politicians. The politicians are not going to save you, especially if you're a so-called black man in this society that I like to call captivity. No one is going to help you, black man. You are what you are going to do based off of how you are going to survive for yourself. So, like I said, kudos to Charles Barkley in making that statement. I respect what he says. But it's going to go on deaf ears because here in this society, we love to talk about it with no real solution when it comes to so-called racism. And yes, it is big business for politicians to make money off of it. It's in your music, it's in your movies, it's on social media, it's in the homes, it's in the indoctrination camps called the public school system. Also, the advanced public school system, which is called colleges all over the globe. They push and promote racism as well. So you can't get away from it because no one has a real solution or a real plan in resolving it. All people want to do is talk, talk, talk. So kudos to Charles Barkley for stating his opinion and actually telling the truth. It will fall on deaf ears, unfortunately. But if black folks do the things that I stated, we can actually end our own situations and our own issues.